Good morning, and welcome to the Saturday morning Science of Mind lecture series. We're so glad that you're here today, and it's exciting for me because I haven't been on the air for a while, and so I'm excited to engage with everyone. So please put your comments in and questions in. We are hoping to have a rousing day today. And so first and foremost, let's start with the prayer. So let's take a deep breath. And so as we quiet our mind and allow the Spirit of God to move within everything that we are, we know that this moment is precious and that this moment is alive with knowledge, information, and connection to the divine mind of God, so that we can enliven our lives, so that we uplift our spirits, so that we become beacons of light and consciousness based on our conversation of this divine ideal called religious science. And so with that, we give thanks for this moment, for this time, for all those that are here, those who may come later, and those who may catch the recording. And so we know that this moment is blessed, that we are blessed, and that God is all there is. And so it is. Amen. And so good morning once again. As you know, we have gone through the entire Science of Mind textbook. Is how we start these off each year. And now we are using the Science of Mind archives as a impetus to have conversation. And it's what a great idea that we have, because what it gives us the chance to do is look back over the history of this great movement and look at some of the thoughts and ideas that were percolating when we first became known, if you will. So we're looking forward to getting into today. So once again, please share your comments, and we're looking forward to a great conversation today. So first and foremost, today we're going to be looking at a Science of Mind textbook, a magazine rather, from 1928. Now that's 94 years ago. 94 years ago. And so what we're looking at here is, we are looking at the genesis of this movement, the very beginning of where Dr. Ernest Holmes began to get this idea out, to teach this idea, and to allow us to begin to live these principles. And the thing I want to really bring forth is this. This is unique, I think, in that this is the first presentation of the objective of the Science of Mind. At this time, it was called the Institute of Religious Science. And it says, and I know it's kind of small, so I'll read it here. Primarily, the Institute of Religious Science and School of Philosophy, Inc. is an institute of learning that is no way competes with any established church or doctrine existing solely for the purpose of enlightenment on religious science and its application to the greatest of all arts, the life itself. The greatest of all arts, life itself. Now, here again, this teaching started out as what we continue to do as a learning vehicle, as a vehicle for learning who we are, who God is, and how we connect. So it transcends all denominations. It transcends all religions. And it's very, very key, because the one thing I want to bring up here, and I'm going to skip around a bit because I thought this was very interesting as well. I'm going to bring this up here because if you see here, this is the winter courses that they were going to teach in 1929. And if you look there on the left-hand side, you'll see a name, Amin U. Farid, who was a medical doctor and a PhD. And you see over here, there's a Rabbi Ernest Tanner. But the interesting thing for me is Dr. Fareed was a Baha'i. He was a member of the Baha'i faith, and he was teaching at the Institute. So from the very beginning of the teachings of religious science, Dr. Holmes had this idea of a collaborative effort, of a unity of idea, of the oneness of spirit that allows us to connect with all people in all places, no matter what the conversation is in terms of God. And so we want to bring that out because that's where we are now. We're at this place in history where we need to begin to, continue this original idea of sharing knowledge and presenting the ideas of God and consciousness and spirit in the many different ways that it shows up. Now, when we look at the table of contents of this magazine from 1928, we see even then there was a lot of different authors presenting here. There were a lot of different great topics: 3 paths to knowledge, casting out fear. I think last week when Reverend Mark spoke, he was talking about love, but he also had this whole thing about casting out fear. Well, right here in 1928, there's a whole article on casting out fear, which debilitates us, which keeps us from moving forward. And so you see here, they even back then had a thing for children. Child training series. So they had stories for children to watch. And so here again, we have to look at the roots from where we come and begin to move forward with this idea of the science of mind, the religious science, an institute that looks at the philosophy of life in a way of acting, in a way of being present, in a way of cultivating not only a life, but an environment where life grows. And so I'm going to look at 2 articles from the magazine in 1928. And now just to put this in a little bit more perspective, this was only a few months before the Depression in 1929, right? So this idea was percolating even when there was conditions that were not so conducive, one might say, because we know there was some turbulence before the Depression happened. It didn't just happen overnight. So and when we look at this, we understand what they were thinking and how they were moving. And so the one thing we want to look at, the first article, is this article called From the Sidelines. And so it's only a 2-page article, and I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to summarize. But as you know, you can go to the archives. You can donate to the archive. You can donate here, but that's not the one I want. This is the one I want. Is if you visit the archives, you can see these different articles. There's videos, there's recordings. So we encourage to go out there and look at the Science of Mind archives and be able to look at articles and retrieve articles, and you can join or be a member. And so do that. There's some gems there. But this article here, From the Sidelines, does exactly what it says or talks about. It speaks to the idea that you can't play the game from the sidelines. Now, I'm paraphrasing a lot, and so I want you to go out and read that article because it talks about a friend of his who was pretty comfortable in life. He had his house and a garden and nice things in the house, but he didn't go outside of the house much. And then something happened by him staying there. We know what that something was. His consciousness was not being engaged. He was not being interactive with spirit. And so he became ill. And he went to Wyoming. He met a woman. They got married. They came back. And when everyone saw them, there was this idea that, boy, what a mismatch. I don't know how long that's going to last. But through the engagement and not being on the sidelines of life, because both of them had been on the sideline, his wife in Wyoming and him in California. But when they got together, they engaged each other enough so that they were no longer on the sidelines. They had to learn different things about each other. And so, hence the article, The Sidelines, right? The article of From the Sidelines. And so the theme there is, to be involved in life, you have to be involved in life. It's one thing to be on the sidelines and give commentary, and we'll have a lot of that now that football season has started, and we'll have a bunch of Monday morning quarterbacking and people on the sidelines telling what should have done or how they would have done it. But mind you, a lot of those people have never played the game. They've only saw it and criticized someone else. And so what we need now more than anything else, I believe, in terms of where we are in life, the skills and tools that God has provided us with, the consciousness as new thought leaders and practitioners and religious science devotees, if you will, the one thing that we must continue to do and begin to do, if we aren't doing it already, is get involved. We have to get off the sidelines. We have to, we can no longer just dip our toe in the water. We have to immerse ourselves. We have to have the experiences. Because one thing Dr. Holmes talked about in this article, and it's not about Dr. Holmes, I forget at this moment the author, but what they talk about is this thing that as you begin to experience life and get hardships and run into rough spots, it is in those moments when the Spirit arises. It is in those moments that Spirit, because Spirit itself cannot be corralled. It cannot be held down. So when it gets in a place within us, Spirit itself, let's be clear, is never corralled. It is never without options, if you will. But when we, the embodiment of that Spirit, are not aware of it, are not activating it, are not moving in concert with it, we can find ourselves in places where we become complacent. We become comfortable. As the gentleman in the article there, he had his house and everything, and he became comfortable. So he didn't want to get out of that comfortable place. But we come to find out that is when those moments become a little rough that the Spirit arises, because the Spirit does not want to be, nor can it be, corralled or dampened. And so to show our stuff, to exercise and become better, we have to be engaged in this thing called life. We have to be very conscious of who and what we are and where we are within life and get involved. Because if we don't, we wind up being, there's a saying that goes, if you take life casual, you will end up a casualty. If you take life casual, you will end up a casualty. And so we need to be able to engage life, not be on the sidelines, to continue to engage and study, to continue to engage in activating our conscious mind into actual steps and actions. And right now, we have more than enough opportunities to get involved, to open up to life, to not be on the sidelines, whether we are getting involved in homelessness, if you will, or helping to feed others, or to help take care of kids, or to do a community cleanup. Because these are the things that when we become too comfortable and stay on the sideline, life begins to take hold and unfold in a way that we're no longer compatible. Not that we can't be, but because we've allowed the Spirit inside to be dormant, and not be engaged, we allow ourselves to not bring forth the power, the glory, and the presence of God. And so when we look at this idea of from the sidelines, and as we begin to look at the football season this year, let us begin to say, hey, I am no longer going to be on the sideline. You know, there's that idea where the football player is ready, he's done, and he's just following the coach, saying, put me in, coach, put me in, put me in, coach, I'm ready. That's what each and every one of us should be saying. God, put me in. I'm ready. I'm ready to shine your light. I'm ready to bring forth the glory of God. I'm ready to be involved in life, to elevate it to a way and a place that allows everybody to excel. For us as a team to win, if you will. So let's contemplate on that this week. Let's look at how we are going to activate our lives into life itself so that we are no longer on the sidelines. So that's just a synopsis of the essence of that story. It would be great for you to go out to the archives and grab that. These articles, I think, are like, this one was like $2, $1.99. You can download it. And it's great to have this perspective of what this teaching was in its infancy, if you will, in its genesis. Even then, it was powerful. It was cutting edge, just like it is right now. And so we look forward to continuing this part of the series and moving forward. And so if anyone has any questions or comments in regarding the being on the sideline, please bring them forward. And I'll wait here for a moment just to see if we have any. And if we don't, I will move forward to the next one. But please go here to the Science of Mind archive and check it out. It's a great resources. It has old magazines. It has books that are available for download. It has recordings. You know, in this particular magazine, they speak of a radio program that Dr. Holmes did from 6 to 6:30. So even back then, they were on the airways, just like we are here at New Thought Media Network, trying to educate and give opportunities for people to to become alive, to awaken to the magic of life. And so the next thing we want to look at here that was in this particular article back in 1928, and I know that sounds that to me that just sounds strange. 1928. I'll have to sit down after this and meditate on what life must have been like in 28, do some little search on the internet, and then think about, given the circumstances and history of that, how would I have acted if I had this knowledge to work in a time of turmoil and uncertainty, right? So, and I think this next one by Dr. Holmes, this meditation on be still and know. This was by Ernest Holmes. It says, be still and know. And when we look at this, it opens up the idea of how do we begin to center ourselves? How do we begin to open up to life so that we can really be a conduit for the divine? How do we open up so that we begin to allow the Spirit to move within us? And I'll just read this first paragraph. It says, disease is healed by knowing perfection. Poverty is healed by knowing abundance. By realizing one's unity with the eternal supply, with the universal nature, which spills itself over everything, runs through everything, and is in everything, God expresses himself in and through his perfect creation. This is true power. Power is not an entity, but is the state of consciousness resulting from the union of peace with poise. The day will come when the belief in a material universe will be rolled up like a scroll and numbered with the things of past experience. But power will remain unchanged. By this passing, real power is self-existing, self-propelling, self-operating, self-expressing, and self-perpetuating. It is God. Man expresses the power to the degree that he lives in conscious union with life. Conscious union with life. Now, I'm sorry that was small, that I'm only going to read that small portion there. But what Dr. Holmes is talking about here, and what he's asking us to reflect upon in this be still and know, is to know that we are the essence of God. And that the Spirit of God, the consciousness, the universal mind is flowing through us. It doesn't need us. It is self-propelling. It is self-operating. But for us to understand that and to move in unison with that is to be still and know, to meditate, to contemplate, to observe the presence of God. And I know for me, one place that I go to and I use as a hallmark is nature. Is to go take a little hike in a spot, find a place, and just sit there. Whether you have your eyes open or closed. I like to do it with my eyes open often because I can sit there and I can watch the wildlife move around. I can look at the plants, and if the wind is blowing, I can see how the wind affects different plants in different ways. And some sway when the wind blows, and some kind of just shudder when the wind blows, and some just stand tall. All experiencing the same presence of life, but reacting to it in a different way and moving in unison with God and itself. You know, so the plant that is swaying in the wind is not trying to emulate the pine tree that's just standing tall and shivering just a little bit. It is in that point of being still and know that it is the presence of God and the presence of mind that allows us to keep moving, to keep living, to not struggle in a process, just to allow it to be. Because he goes on in there and says that the real secret of success, right action, inevitably follows right knowing, right? The spirit itself never moves, yet all movement takes place within it. The individual ego remains quiet in the midst of external confusion, and when the mind is receptive, all ceases. All ceases. So he speaks of this whole idea of peace is the power at the heart of God. God is the reality back of all things. One should spend much time communing with his own soul. Communing with his own soul, to move into this place to where we understand that God is all there is. And when we allow ourselves to be still and to be quiet and to get into this miraculous dance with the divine, in that stillness, in that moment of inactivity, the presence of God becomes alive within us. And we are awakened to a new way of seeing things, a new way of acting, a new way of looking at ourselves. And as we looked at in that first article, how do I begin to get off the sidelines? How do I begin to take myself out of my comfort zone, right? Because another aspect of the story before was this coming off the sideline is, how do we begin to not be comfortable? A lot of us, we attain our success, whether it's prosperity or status, and we become comfortable. We think we've done all that there is to do. But if we can be still and know that the evolutionary process of life, the evolutionary impetus that God has placed in each and everything in this universe is to expand forever and evermore. And so we love this idea, and I think it's so great that we begin to look at this idea of being still, so that we know, so that we can no longer be on the sideline of life, that we can engage in life, that we can interject ideas and activities and experiences that allow us to move with ease and grace, and with faith that God is behind us, that God is with us, that God is in front of us. So that as we saw the one article there on fear, and as Reverend Mark spoke to last week, that we begin to allow fear to dissipate like a rain cloud. It came, it presented an opportunity for us to grow. We're not trying to run from it. We're not trying to deny it. We're trying to look at it as it is and allow the Spirit of God to tell us how to move beyond it, how to dissipate it, how to use it as a stepping stone to move from one place to another in the evolutionary aspect of the unfolding of the divine. And so when we can do that, we begin to open up to a way of life, to a way of living that is unique, whole, and complete. Unique, whole, and complete. And so I'll stop there on that one. Again, I encourage you to go out and peruse this particular one, September 1928. And I just, my mind is opened every time I say that. And so if there's any comments or questions on that, please put them forward. And I think, one of the things that is so dynamic, if you will, about the teachings of religious science or science of mind is this idea of practice. One of the things that Dr. Holmes had in that very first screen I showed, I'm going back to it. I want to bring it up here. Because there's a place here where it says, and I'm going to make it full screen so I can get it. It says, for those who wish a scientifically deduced course of mental training uncovered from the highest concepts of truth, for those who desire honest, intelligent freedom from any and all sense of mystery, and above all, the practicability in the understanding of unity, this school has been founded. Now that's a lot, because back then, a lot of the scientific ideas were just being revealed. Einstein was on the scene and doing his thing and bringing forth these scientific methods. And at that moment, Dr. Holmes was saying, we're going to use a scientific approach with a practical application to understand this thing called life, to move forward. And so as always, and even in today, there's this one thing that I always love, and I'll just bring that up right now, which is this: what we believe. What we believe. So, this is like the credits rolling at the end of a movie when we look at this. What we believe. Ernest said, I believe in God, the living spirit, almighty, one, indivisible, absolute, and self-existing cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation. but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the legal, it is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. I believe in the incarnation of the Spirit in man, and that all men incarnates of the one Spirit. I believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever expanding. I believe that the kingdom of heaven is within myself, and that I experience the kingdom to the degree that I become conscious of it. I believe that the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be obtained by all. I believe in the unity of all life, that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. I believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. I believe in the direct revelation of the truth through the intuitive and spiritual nature of man, and that any man may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. I believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is a creative mind, which receives the direct impresses of my thoughts and acts upon it. I believe in the healing of the sick through the power of this mind. I believe in the controlling of conditions through the power of this mind. I believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. I believe in my own soul, my own spirit, my own destiny, for I understand that the life of man is God. That the life of man is God. Now that's, if we could just take that statement of what Ernest believed and what we believe as religious scientists, we could spend a lifetime just dissecting those statements and become, so encased in light that we could move forward for a lifetime just on that. And again, I keep going back to this whole idea of, this was in 1928 that these kinds of statements and this approach to life and this way of understanding was being present. And so I encourage everyone to go out to the Science of Mind, and this is the one that I'm looking at here, Religious Science, September 1928. To go out and explore, to go out and engage yourself in the archives, which gives us a root foundation of this teaching. And one thing I'm finding about looking at some of the older ideas, they're straightforward. They're not that wordy. Some of the language is different, obviously, because it's from a different time, which in itself gives us a different way of looking at things, because now words become cliches and they become, hip or whatever, and we use them and they already have predetermined meanings. But when people use different words, when we go to the thesaurus and use another word, it causes us to look at things from a different perspective. It causes us to ask different kinds of questions and the understanding of what is being said. And so the archives is a great place for that. So I encourage everyone to go there and explore what's there. And so if there's any questions, we'll entertain those, or any comments. I think one of the things that that we have to look at, and there's a thing here by Wayne that says wisdom is applied knowledge. And it just so happened I was looking at an article the other day that talked about data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. And data is just a collection of facts, right? And so we find ourselves now in this information age. Everybody's got a phone with them or internet access, and we're just grabbing facts. We're grabbing data, right? So when we have conversations, we can talk this data. But have we put it in some kind of context? Do we understand somewhat its application? So we take the data and we put it in information. We begin to coalesce it into some snippets of understanding. But even then, it's just information. It's a little better than data, but not much. It's when we move it into knowledge that we can take that information and begin to use it in life, to use it to discover new things, to heal. That's when it becomes knowledge. But the ultimate is wisdom, because I get an opportunity to have this data, which forms information, which is coalesced into knowledge. But then when I have wisdom, I have a greater understanding of when to use it and when to take a parallel, or when to take a metaphor to move it to a whole nother realm of existence. Like we did earlier, I used the metaphor of football to understand this idea of being on the sideline. Well, now I've just taken, this metaphor that can be applied to different areas of life to see how these concepts can be applied to any arena in life. Any arena in life. And so if there are no more comments or questions or heretofores, if you will, I will wrap up this week's Science of Mind conversation. I thank you for being here. As always, it's great to share these ideas and to have these conversations. And the good thing about it for us that are presenting, I know for me, and I think I can speak for my fellow compadres, is that this gives me a chance and an opportunity to think about this in a different way, to look at new ways of applying this knowledge, new ways of expressing this knowledge, and most of all, new ways of living in alignment with the divine mind of God. And so with that, I thank everyone for being here. Again, remember to support the network. You can donate to ntmedia.org and then click the donate button. Don't forget to check out that Science of Mind archive. Great knowledge there. And today I've been your host, Reverend Z. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to the next time we meet. And so without any further ado, I bid you farewell, knowing that wherever you go today, God is with you, guiding you, upholding you, and making your path bright. And so with that, I'll leave you. Peace and blessings. And so it is.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.